MAMP is an open source stack that helps you develop fully functioning web and software applications. It's one of the oldest development stacks out there. You can do two primary things with it. You can create a local server for hosting web pages, meaning you don't have to buy or rent a server just to test out how your web page or app would get served to the client or customer. And you can create a local database for storing information. Again, meaning you don't have to buy or rent a database or part of a database just to test out how your application interacts or would interact with a database. Now, MAMP stands for Mac OS, which is what it was originally designed for, Unix-based systems, not Windows, but we can use it on Windows. The A is for Apache, which is the web server portion of the stack. The second M is MySQL, that's the database portion of the stack. And the P is for PHP. This is the programming language used to develop your web pages for the Apache server. But don't worry if you're coming from a JavaScript background. As a JavaScript developer, we can use Express or Node.js as our web server. So Express or Node.js would replace the Apache part. And we can use the MySQL database portion of MAMP to help us test out our apps. Just understand that the Apache server of a MAMP stack understands PHP natively, not JavaScript. Alright, so to get MAMP up and running, just navigate to the site. The link is in the description below. We click on free download, and there is a Windows version and a Mac OS version. We're going to be using the Windows version. Now, I'm not going to show you guys how to download and install it. You guys can handle that yourselves. So once you've downloaded and installed it, we get it up and running, and this is what it looks like. Now, in the intro, I told you there's an Apache server part and there's a MySQL database or server part. That's these two guys here. So click on the Start Server, and it's going to start up these guys. We're going to see a green dot. There we go. And there we go. And the default ports of these guys. Default port for your Apache server is localhost 8888. And for your MySQL server or your database is 8889. And so to manage your database, MAMP comes with a tool. So we click on the Open Web Start page. It redirects us here. And that tool is called phpMyAdmin. It's under Tools. So click on this guy. We get redirected to another site or another page. And this is what it looks like. This is how we're going to create and modify our database, the MySQL portion of the MAMP stack. So this video is just going to show you how to create a database and then create a user that can access the database. Default, if you want to see the default user for your MySQL database, this is it right here, root and root. We're going to create a new user that has certain permissions and lacks certain permissions. So to create a new database, we click on New right here on the left. We'll name it Rex, and we'll say Create. And we have to create a table within the database. We'll say Images and 7 columns just like that, and we'll hit Go. And so just like that, we have a Rex database on the left here with a images or an images table right here. And this table has 7 columns, 7 different attributes to each per record. So the first column within this table, we'll say it's ID. This is going to act as a unique identifier per each record, and so that you can't have duplicate records. So in order to do that, we have you don't have to name it ID. We could name it that, right? But we're going to name it ID, and then we're going to go over here to this drop down. We're going to click Unique, just like that. And it's going to ask us for this index name. We'll just say ID. And we'll just say Go like that. And right there, this record right now, the specific column is a unique column. If we had 2 records in our database and we both had an ID of 5, we get an error that would come back to us. So to avoid that, so we don't have to think like, how many records do we have in our database? What are their IDs? Which ID can I not use because it's already... To avoid all that nonsense, we can just have the database automatically use a unique ID. And for that, we click on the AI, which stands for auto increment. And so each time you put in a record, it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on like that. So we click on auto increment. And just like that, we have a unique ID column for per each record in the images table. So let's fill out the rest of these guys. So we'll just say author like that. And the data type, so for the data for our ID, we can have an int, we can have varchar, which is characters, we could do text, date, all these stuff here. We're just going to use a unique integer or number value for ID. For the author, we obviously want some characters, right? So we're going to click varchar, and we're going to say it's a maximum length of 30. And what else do we need to do? There's no default. You can set defaults. We're not going to do a default. We're not going to do a default. and this null guy here. If we click null, what this says is when you insert a new record into your images table, this guy's allowed to be blank. We don't want that, so we're going to click null off like that. And so we're going to create another column. We'll say it's file name, again a varchar of 30 like that. And again, we want them to enter a value in there. You can't enter a record into this images table without filling out all of these columns, except for this one right here, file. This file will be a blob. If you don't know what a blob is, it's just like a really long buffer, a long piece of memory, a long string. And so we'll say it's a tiny blob, medium blob. We'll just say blob like that. And for this guy, you can absolutely have him null, so they don't have to enter a file, a blob file. And for these guys, we'll say directory, like that. And this guy will be a varchar. And I'll tell you why I'm using these guys, these table names and these data types in a second. Varchar of 30 as well, and you have to enter that. And for these last two guys, we'll do date created, which is going to be a date. There's two options, there's date and there's date time. We'll use date time like that, and date modified, again, date time. So I'm just creating a table that I used in a different video where I created an image gallery and we stored the image on the backend server, and a record of which images we had on the server, we inserted them into the database. So if you guys want to see that video, I'll link it in the description below. But it was like a 2-hour video of showing you how to get an image gallery up and running with React.js, Node.js, and Express, and of course this MySQL database. And so this date modified is also date time like that. And so once you're satisfied with your columns, what they are, if they're unique, auto-incremented, and keep in mind, you can always edit these later. Nothing's set in stone. So once we're satisfied, we click the Save button. And just like that, we have a database called Rex on the left here. Database called Rex with a table called Images. And the structure of that table is 7 columns. And we have all of these columns here. Unique ID, an author, file name, a file, a directory, date created, and date modified. So we've just created a fully functional database that we'll connect to. Not in this video. If you want to see how to connect to this database using Node.js and Express, I'll put a link in the description or a card on the top right if you're watching on YouTube. So now that we've created this database, let's create a user that can access this database. And so to do that, we can click on the Privileges tab up here, or we can click on the Server Localhost 8889 up here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to click on the server part up here. And we're going to go to User Accounts, and we're going to create a new user account which is Add User Account. And we're going to name this guy Tester like that. And this host name, so this % sign says any host name, which is just going to be local host, so we can leave it like that. The password we can set, I'll say password. Don't ever do that. Password again. We don't need to generate a password. And this is where we specify the privileges. What is Tester going to be allowed to do to the database here? Well, they're going to be able to select, insert, update, and delete records, but we don't want them to be able to create, alter, or drop complete or whole tables or whole databases over here. So that's all they're going to be able to do. Once you're satisfied with what they can do, we can scroll down and we click Go. And so we've created a user account called Tester, and all they can do is select records, insert records, update records, and delete records. For whatever purposes you have your program, you might want to opt out of deleting records. But for the video I did on Image Gallery, we used the delete functionality, delete permission as well. So I went ahead and clicked that. And so that's going to be for the video. We've created a new database called Rex with a table images with columns, 7 columns like this. And we created a user that could access the database, that could read, write, update, and delete. Where am I? And delete, there we go, Tester, and delete records. So if this video helped you at all, it's a very quick video just to get you up and running with a MySQL database. Don't forget to give a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, any comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.